What is going on, everybody? I'm Bobby Fi. I'm here with the QL TV show. We're going to be bringing this to you for every day. We're going to talk some BetQL, some RotoQL. We're going to talk DFS. We're going to talk FanDuel, DraftKings. We're going to talk everything sports betting related. We are happy to have you here today. I'm a little bit, maybe a little bit off my game at the moment. I just got a notification that we're under a state of emergency now in California, so I might have to be buying up a bunch of goods later today. Anyway, so a little bit that just came crashing in for news across the news wire, so it's a little worrisome. But I am extremely prepared for an awesome NBA slate. And hey, if I have to be locked up, I may as well make some money and enjoy watching some basketball. So let's get straight into it. I want to point out a few things about BetQL right off the bat. BetQL, by the way, has been 12-4 on four-star spreads over the last 2 weeks. I think that's a obviously a really solid number. You could literally just blindly bet the four-star bets like we have tonight that's up on my screen right now, the Celtics and Cavs, and you'd be making great money if you were betting on all those games. We also just launched a new pricing structure to take advantage of. So go to betql.co, enter code BobbyFi, and you get 30% off your first month. Look, it's awesome. Also, download the RotoQL app, BetQL app. There's some great information here. We'll get into some of the trends, some of the stuff we can find out, some of the sharp picks. I'll try and use the one screen we're allowed to show you to tell you a little bit about what we do, what we've got for tonight, and then we'll look at my DraftKings and FanDuel lineups in a little bit. In the meantime, once you get on in, please say hello, give us the like. We really appreciate it. We're doing these shows for free for you people, so we want you guys to make money, and we want you guys to enjoy the show. We're not going to be right all the time, but we're going to be right more often than we're not. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm going to take a quick look to see who's in chat. Good afternoon, K9 Bronco. Always good to see you. Welcome back. Abrasive, let's get after it today. Need to get off the losing streak. I hear you, buddy. I actually had a good night last night. Not a great night, though. It's an interesting, it's time to get off the losing streak. It's been a little bit of a funky NBA last couple weeks, but in that I've also had a couple good wins, so I guess I can't complain. Let's get this going tonight. Let's make some money. Hey, Eric, really good to hear you. Really good to see you in here. And you want to know my thoughts on the Cavs? I have them stacked probably too much. More so on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings, but I definitely feel like I have a lot of Cavs love. And as you can see, jumping right into the BetQL part of the show, we basically have this game as a 1.5 point spread. We had it at a half a point earlier, but then Tatum came in. I think that's what changed it. And then it's a 4-star bet for Cleveland plus the 4. Now, they are getting points at home to a banged-up Boston team. Tatum is still available. I would lean more betting the money line. We actually have the money line as a 1-star bet for the Celtics. I actually would lean the money line for the Cavs before I would bet and take my 4 points. I would rather take a shot that they actually somehow pulled this one out. So I'm a little bit struggling with this bet. I get it. I don't want to give up the 4. I don't know. If I take it, I think I would just go straight money line for the Cavs to get some extra money in there. That's just sort of where I'm at this moment. What do I make of the Celtics tonight? What a cluster F. Good point there, Larry C. It is an interesting spot, so we'll get into it on my DraftKings lineups in a little bit. But I like the Celtics. I'm very interested in Tatum. I'm not worried about the price too much. I know other people will be. Some will be, but I actually don't think – I think he's going to be pretty popular, obviously, anyway. Delhi is really cheap on DK. That's true. There's other cheap options that we might have better. It's hard. Does Delhi outscore Wanamaker, 10% of the time here? Maybe. Yeah, probably about that. Just an interesting way to look at it, but I don't know that I would want to get heavily invested in Delhi, although I am open to him. I will have some exposure, but only because I'm playing multiple tournaments tonight. I don't think I'd play him if I was playing one tournament. Right off the top of my head, I don't think that's what I would do. But just to see some of the other things we've got down here, just a couple recent small trends. Brad Stevens, 18-36 after a combined score of 235 or more while coaching in Boston. So basically, he's been really bad after games where they've given up a lot of points. That's a little bit of an unusual stat for sure, but it is interesting. And also 17-34 against terrible defensive teams, allowing 110 points per game or more. These are all leading you to that 4-star Cavs bet that we're looking for. So, look, don't listen to me. Listen to BetQL. I'm the DFS guy who also does well at sports betting, but a lot of that is because of BetQL, to be honest with you. I've got my own takes, but absolutely would not be doing as well this year as I would be if not for BetQL. Any good pivots? K9 Bronco wants to know, any good pivots off the Cleveland value? You were looking in Washington at Napier and Robinson. Ooh, if you watched my DraftKings show earlier today, you would know my feelings about Napier. Love Napier as a sleeper play. Still don't know where I stand on Robinson yet. He did play a lot of minutes last night traveling west. It's 3,100, so you can definitely take that shot, but I think there's other plays and other things I'd probably look at before I did that. But appreciate the question, K9 Bronco. Keep getting them loaded up, guys. I'm going to jump into some other stuff with my lineups real quick. And in the meantime, make sure to get some questions and just say hello. Get your thoughts in. Tell us other things you'd like to see on the show. Tell us times that would work for you. We're still trying to fine-tune this thing. We probably will be for another couple weeks. But in the meantime, let's make some money. So here we go. I'm going to jump real quick into my initial DraftKings builds. Now, I did say, like Robinson, I used him as a filler over here. I also have Brandon Knight, who I'm still questioning whether I'm going to use. And I have Mo Wagner, who I'm still questioning about using. So I don't know where I'm going to end up standing. I know that my favorite player on the slate is Luka. I understand he's going to be high owned, but I'm having trouble fading it. I think you can get, look, I put some wild cards in here. Enes Kanter, played him with Wagner in there. I think Enes Kanter was a really interesting tournament play, especially before Tatum was announced in, but now not quite as interesting. You can see Brandon Knight's been getting the minutes with no D Rose. He should be around 30 if he does play. Kobe White is a great play that might be, we're going to get him at much lower ownership at a very similar price in a much better matchup than he was the other night. So Kobe White you have my permission to just fire him all up everywhere. And you can see I've got Napier over here. I've got Wanamaker. I put Napier in my slightly more chalky lineup. I like Mikhailuk just because he's the small forward eligibility. You can see mostly I'm using the guards, although I do have Zion in the utility in this particular lineup. Just to give you an idea of some of the guys I'm looking at, this was my very first build before I found out that Lillard was playing, and I made that one, I think, right after lineup locked yesterday. So that's one that will be scrapped, but just gives you an idea. The rest of them should give you an idea of where I'm at pretty much. So anyway, guys, going to jump back into the chat for a little bit, leave that up on screen and see what you guys think. Ask me questions. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm great. Whatever you got to tell me. Just tell me what it is. And don't forget, subscribe, QLTV. There are going to be days where I don't do shows on my YouTube channel, so make sure you're following on QLTV because we need you guys to make sure you're getting the good information. And I want to see my people. I want to see my people in the chat room. So far, we haven't converted everybody over. We still don't have the show fine-tuned, so we don't have the hundreds of people in the chat like we're going to. But that's great. That means I can have more just one-on-one time with you guys, and we can find a way to make money together. This is how we've done it. Those of you who watch our lineup block shows, me and Sheets, the last three we've done, I think 2 out of the 3 I won a major tournament. So probably need to start doing that again. I think I'm going to go back to it tonight. But again, going to do something with QLTV as well. So make sure you're following, like, and subscribe. And again, if you want the best product out there for sports betting, and I love the projection system for tournament DFS as well, go to BetQL.co, enter code BobbyFi as a promo, get 30% off of your first month. And let's start printing money. I mean, I told you I already repeated these numbers, but I'm going to go back to it again because some of you guys are just tuning in. We have the model has gone 12-4 on 4-star spread bets over the last 14 days. That's pretty good. 12-4, I would take that. So let's take advantage of it. I want to note also, obviously I mentioned the Cavs now, a +4 in reality and only a 1.5 point underdog in our model. I am still having trouble pulling the trigger on this bet myself, but I, again, would encourage you to just not listen to me when it comes to this and trust BetQL. They've got good information here. They even accounted for the spread jumping a little bit with Tatum. It added an extra point for Boston there in the spread. So I like the Cavs fine. I think that if I'm a gambler, I would just take the money line or not bet this game personally, but I certainly don't mind the Cavs -4. I don't really want to play the one possession game on the road thing. It just feels weird to me. Not really going to, slightly more than one possession. That's just not for me. The Celtics money line under is -165, and it's a 1-star bet. Again, sort of a little bit somewhat contradictory to itself, so it would be hard for someone who doesn't know sports betting to understand that. But basically, we're saying this game was played, let's say, 1 million times, that we have the Cavs losing by 1.5 on average. So that makes it a good bet. Probably not as good of a bet as it was before Tatum came back, but still a good bet. Let's see. We've got the under at 217 in this game. It's a 4-star. The model lists that it should be at 212. So they're projecting a low-scoring Celtics win by 1.5, basically. That's a very strange, narrow line to take in a basketball game. So I like the under bet. I think it's an interesting bet. I don't want it to happen because I have money on this DFS-wise, and we'll get into that on FanDuel in just a minute. But it's an under that we have them at 212. That's a pretty big difference, which should make it. That's why it's a 4-star. I agree with the under. I don't agree overall with the betting on the Cavs here. I want to see real quick while we're talking about this. Let's get into some of the where the public's at, and then we're going to get into some of the sharp picks. The public, we have 63% bet on the Celtics, actually. Okay, interesting. I'm wondering if this number is not going to be a 4-star by pretty soon, because it does feel a little bit things are going to go in the way of the Celtics, and we're going to have to guess the sharp picks here are going to be, what is happening with our sharp picks over here? Well, for some reason that's not working. Let's go back to the public betting. The sharp picks doesn't look like this page is uploading right now. Probably just a tiny little glitch. Gonna fix it, but you can see the public likes the Celts. So that's where we're leading me into, real quick, my FanDuel lineup. I'm gonna explain this, but first I'm gonna take a quick look in chat and see if you guys have any comments on the DraftKings side of it. In the meantime, take a look and see what I've got planned here on FanDuel. It is I win a little different. Okay, let's just put it that way. I have some chalk, but I've also got some really interesting pivots, and I want to talk a little bit about them. But in the meantime, I want to see what your guys' questions are. We got Luka or Giannis or both. If you can get both and you feel comfortable, Eric, I say go for it. I'm going to be doing some of that myself. Luka's my number one overall play. I do think with the ownership factor, you could definitely make the argument for Giannis. Luka against this Pelicans team on a back-to-back, definitely enticing to get a little Luka Zion, get the next two superstars of the NBA, the guys who you would have a hard time picking between if you had to start a team right now. Can I stack 5 Cavs tonight? I wouldn't go that far. I think it's too big of a slate and too good of one. I think 4 would be my max, 3 would be my sweet spot. That's the way I would put it on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I could see playing 4 easier than I can on DraftKings. Like, for example, you can see one of my builds right here. I've got Taurean Prince and Porter, and I could easily just switch that Taurean Prince in for Cedi Osman as my 4th Cav in that matchup to run it back with Smart and Tatum. And then I've got or actually I guess it would be my 4th. No, it'd only be it would be my 4th. And then we'd have, the beautiful little game stack of, I love that actually. I might actually just do that. You know what I'm going to do? While we're on air right here, you're going to see what I actually am going to do with some of my lives. And I'm going to put this in I'll put it in the RG 100 and the 77. I'm obviously going to change my lines before the end of the day. But just to give you a little idea of what we're looking at, probably going to play about 1,500 today on FanDuel and maybe about 3,000 or 4,000 on DraftKings, and trying to get a heavier exposure. I'm loving this Lillard skeptical play. I think at low ownership with a him and Beal combination with a fairly chalky game stack in Boston, but Boston-Cleveland, let's go. I really feel good about this one. I do prefer Taurean Prince, and especially because it seems like overexposure, but I want some overexposure to this game. This game, it's just there's a bunch of guys who are going to play 30-plus minutes who cost nothing. It's hard, not really a lot else to say. I could switch in Valentine. I want to point out that he didn't play much in the second half the other day. We've also got a lot of guys coming back for Chicago. So that's another way to go, but I probably will throw Valentine into another pivot off of this. It's one way I like to build, on FanDuel, is I'll build something and then I'll make pivots off of it at different price ranges because of different tournaments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to throw this one now into the 77 and the 7, and then we will get back to the show and the questions because I am sure I've got a few more at this point. I love the power forwards from Washington. I don't happen to have them in my current builds, K9 Bronco. He asked me if I like the power forwards from Washington. On FanDuel especially, but on both sites, I like them. It's a little nervous with Rui because he's might be a little bit careful with him. He's a rookie. He's been going through some tough stuff. So that's where I'm at. Eric, the question for thoughts on Beal is it's a ridiculous price to pay, so no one's going to pay it. But I say you got to have some exposure. I think he's easier to get in on makes sense on FanDuel, but I think that just with what he's been doing, he had 10 points at halftime yesterday at fantasy points. I think he ended up scoring 47 in the second half. There's just such a ceiling for that guy, even if they get down big. So I just think it's interesting. Nance Jr., I don't have an official word yet, and I'm going to double check my message at the moment. I don't have any official word yet from whether or not Tristan Thompson's playing, so I'm going to wait for that before I make a decision. And by the way, assuming Thompson does play, I like Thompson a lot as another center pivot. I love Wendell Carter tonight. I know there's minutes. I know all this stuff. I think in 24 minutes he puts up 35 fantasy points, and if there's any upside there's upside for 40 on that against this Minnesota team. I really believe that. Do I think Dame is going to hit at DK? I think Dame is a good tournament play on DK. I wouldn't want to get so overly invested. I just want to remind everybody that this guy's a gamer. He doesn't have that you got to baby me while I come back thing. They're trying to make the playoffs. I don't know what minutes restriction they'll try to put on him, but I just can see how he's going to you're going to have to pull that guy off the court. He's got that Kobe in him, that Mamba mentality. Are we going to get, let's see, would I rather pay $1,000 more for Luka or Tatum? I would rather play Luka over Tatum for sure. I just want to make that clear. The only argument for playing Tatum over Luka, I'll have both, by the way, a lot, but is that you can play him at the forward spot, and there's a lot of value and interesting plays at the guard spots today on DraftKings, so that's maybe the argument there. I think Luka has a big game tonight. That's where I'm at. Denzel Valentine is not popping for me as much as he was. I think it's I'm going to take a quick look at my little ownership trick guide here and see where we have him projected. He's pretty low. I would take a shot with him. I'm a big believer in the kid. Wasn't crazy about how great he was the other night. Then he gets pulled in the second half, and I could never figure out exactly what happened. I know they won the game, but I just can't figure it. Joe Pagliarulo. Did I pronounce that right? If I didn't, you can please put that in there. Joe, always good to see you. Really appreciate that you always come and join us. Really makes the shows more interesting. And by the way, I got to give you guys a lot of credit. You guys are actually keeping this chat fun and going, and everybody's talking. Let's keep that going. Let's get the likes. Let's get the thumbs up. We want to get to at least, let's get to at least 20 during the show. We'll get to some more afterwards. But in the meantime, please, we're doing it for free. Just give us the like, the thumbs up. We appreciate it. How's the new car, Eric says? I did buy a new car yesterday. I'm excited about it. I actually had to order it. So it's going to take a couple weeks to get here, but I'm excited. Although with this coronavirus, who knows if we're ever going anywhere. So that's sort of where I'm at right now. Eric also wants to know my thoughts on Joe Val. I think that he's a good tournament play. DraftKings, the price is a little higher than you want to pay, but I love Joe Val at low ownership. I'm not crazy about Joe Val at high ownership. So I would say get some exposure to Joe Val. Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Tell me if you guys have any questions or thoughts about specifically my FanDuel lineup. I'm just leaving that one up here. I think there's a lot of interesting ways to go. I was pointed out to by a very smart follower of mine earlier that don't forget about Donovan Mitchell back in New York. I love those narratives. It's a thing for him. I'm going to real quick while we do that pull up a Donovan Mitchell game log before I get back to the BetQL version of the show. Let's grab it real quick because I want to see if that really does hold water. Now, he's only had probably a couple games ever against the Knicks in New York because they were a West Coast team versus an East Coast team. So we won't have a huge sample to go on, but if I notice something that maybe he's taken the most shots in his career in this situation or something like that, that might be a spot where I don't really care about the fantasy points. I just want to see what kind of mentality he might have had going into that game. Obviously, this will be the first one of this season because they only play him twice a year, and he'll only have had 2 other opportunities. So we're going to take a quick look and see real quick. Donovan Mitchell doesn't strike me as someone who it matters as much to, but according to my trusty source, it does matter what he thinks. So real quick, taking a quick look at Mitchell. Sorry about the background noise. We have Mitchell at... I actually don't have
makes his move baseline, skips it out to Donovan. Rises,
all right,
shoots right.
Anyway, we'll get back to that. You guys can find it in the chat. I don't want to waste the time on air while we're doing this. I'll get back to the regular show now. Again, keep throwing questions and thoughts in throughout the chat. We love it. We love to get it going. Top 3 DK centers. Good question. I will tell you. And just to answer that question, the question's coming from Leon Harris. We're going to answer it efficiently. I'm going to go to my actual ownership percentages for my script and tell you exactly who I have the most at center on DraftKings. My highest owned players on DraftKings are Mo Wagner right now. Mitch Robb is a sleeper if he plays. Zion, who's a power forward center eligible. Christian Wood, another guy I like tonight. I don't think I have... I'm still figuring out what to do about the Zion thing. People are afraid of the back to... I just know this kid. He's not human. I feel like we're going to be upset when we look at 50 plus and we didn't play enough of them. But people aren't going to play him on DraftKings. I don't know. I like him. There's a lot of guys at 7,700 at the power forward / center position that makes sense. Randall, Wood, and then you've got Kevin Love, who's the power forward eligible one. A lot of guys in that range. I also like sleepers like I think Jared Allen is a sleeper play today. I think Daniel Tice is a solid sleeper play. I think that Kristaps has been just going nuts, and no one seems to realize he's back to the old Kristaps again in a supremely great matchup. Don't be surprised if he has some games where he keeps outscoring Luka. It's going to happen sometimes. I don't think tonight's the night, but I do think it's going to happen sometimes, and I kind of like both those guys a little bit tonight, so wanted to throw that out there. But those are my favorite centers over on DraftKings. I'm going to get out of here, and then we're going to get back to the BetQL version of the show. Going to talk about some recent trends, some things to look out for, and stuff that you'd want to know. So let's take a quick look over here. Here we go. I am going to see what is the trend that I like. How about this one? The Thunder are 8-1 against the spread on the second half of back-to-backs this season. That's a bet I can get behind. I like the Thunder here. I like them to cover. I don't really think this game is going to be ultra competitive. I'm trying to figure out how that would happen even for the Pistons, which makes me want to play some Pistons in DFS. We can't give away the premium information. Again, if you want to join betql.co, code BobbyFi, you could literally have just put in $100 on the 4 and 5 star games since the All-Star break, and you'd be up $1,000 from your original bet. If you bet $100 on all those games or whatever that from your original bets, you'd be up a grand right now, basically betting a couple $100 a night. Over a course of 10 days, that's not too bad. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And if you're betting more, hey, obviously you're winning more. And if you're getting some of the advanced stuff, you're really going there. So I want to point another thing out. The Miami over has gone 20-10 in the Miami home games this season. So I think it's interesting, and I also think it's interesting because this spread is higher than it would have been a couple weeks ago because of the way the Magic have decided to start playing. And the Heat are actually just not playing quite as slow as you might think they are, but they're not playing fast either. It's a 117, it's a 118.5 total or whatever. I like that. I think I can get behind that one, and I think that's a bet that I might throw one of my 100 on tonight. I try to put a few hundred on a few different bets every night. I've been doing well, but this is one I think I could go with. I could definitely get behind the under hitting in the over hitting in that Magic Heat game. Not like in love with it as much as maybe some of my other picks, but I do think that it is a good one. Anyway, I like that, and I like that information. I really like I think I prefer the Thunder bet over that bet. 8-1 against the spread on the second half of back-to-backs this season. That's pretty darn good. And even if Chris Paul's even if guys were out, which they're not, because this team is playing for playoff position, like even Gallinari is going to play tonight. I just don't see how the Pistons are going to win this game. Now, I also said that about the Warriors yesterday against the Denver Nuggets. I don't know how that happened. It just happens sometimes in the NBA. Guys rally behind when there's guys injured. I mean, my partner over on my channel, Sheets, always says the same thing. People really rally behind them in the NBA. So these seemingly great spreads maybe aren't so great. I like the Pacers to be somewhat competitive, I would say, tonight. I don't know that I want to take them to cover, and I don't know I want to bet against Giannis ever. So it's a little bit of a weird one. Again, I can't give you away the premium information on all these. The Nets and Grizzlies, I think this is a spot where I would probably bet the Nets. And I don't know. I think I like I like this game for DFS, and I like the Nets, I think. I don't know. I'm very iffy on this one. I hope for the Nets, and I think the Nets. I'm not going to bet on that one. Let's just put it that way. The Jazz -8 at the Knicks, I think, is a smart bet. I don't know that I'm going to make it because the Knicks have scared me a little bit with their actually like some weird depth. They actually have some decent, and they're sort of like playing basketball actually, which is kind of unusual. I'm not going to touch the spread on the Heat and the Magic, but I do like the over as we talked about earlier. Bulls at Wolves. It's very hard to know what to do with this Wolves team on the second end of a back-to-back. I think the spread should be higher. I'm a little surprised it's not. So I would lean the Wolves as of right now. The Mavericks and Pelicans, as much as I love the Pels, I'm having a tough time with this one. I think I would take the Pels and the points. I know second of the back-to-back on the road doesn't look good, and I think that's why the odds makers will hate it. But you have to look at reality. They're desperation mode. You got, basically everybody healthy. It's a spot where I really kind of want to attack the Pelicans. I think I'll take the Pelicans +6 there. It does worry me a little bit, but I like it enough to make that bet. And the last one we're going to talk about real quickly is the Wizards and Blazers. I'm having trouble knowing which way to lean on this one. If I was going to lean one way, I think it would be the Blazers -7.5. I just don't think I'm going to lean that way and just let it lie, but that would be the way that I would lean. Real quick, want to see if we've got the sharp picks up yet, because I would like to see where they are at in our free game of the day. Looks like we don't have them up right now, but I'm sure we can get that up another time. And again, just reminding you guys, the public is betting on the Boston side of this, while we at BetQL like the Cavs side of it. So do what you will. I do think the Cavs have played a much different brand of basketball, much better since they've got since the coaching change and all that. So kind of interesting. All right, guys, looks like a bunch of stuff came into chat, so I'm gonna have to take a quick look at this and also get my screen formatted a little better so you guys can see it doesn't look quite so horrible. All right, we're gonna take a quick look. All right, Naz Reid point chasing, or Eric says he's played him last night. is it point chasing to play him? I played a ton of Nas last night. I thought he's the only one physically that was going to be able to match up with Zion. It doesn't feel as necessary to play him tonight. However, the Bulls don't rebound. On FanDuel, he's cheap. That's where I'd get my exposure to him on FanDuel. I don't think I'm going to go for him anywhere else, but I don't think I want a ton of him. I'll have a little bit, though. Porzingis going to smash lower, said Buster Jackson. Says, Buster, I hear you, buddy. I'm a little bit worried about that one. I think I'm putting him a little higher in my script. Probably going to have like 20% of him on DraftKings just to make sure I'm ahead of the field. Am I still on Napier? I absolutely am still on Napier. I still think he's more of a long shot play than he is a high probability play, but we're getting long shot ownership on him in a spot where I think he's going to put up 30 plus fantasy points, and he's got upside of more on that, especially second of a back-to-back. Didn't have to play the whole time last night. Ish Smith's not playing tonight. Bradley Beal has been carrying a crazy load. Let's go with Napier against his old Portland team. I think let's fire it up. That's the kind of thing that can win you a tournament tonight. I really believe that. Okay, let's see. We've got the fine people at QLTV, dropping some stuff into chat. It looks like hey, Divert, I don't know how to pronounce that first name, but Mr. Green says he loves the app. He just started using it last week. Dude, I'm telling you, get that RotoQL app right now. Get the BetQL app right now. Eric stacked the Warriors last night. Man, did you make all the money, Eric? Tell me about it. What happened? Favorite plays on the Cavs on DK. I'll give you that exact information. Instead of just trying to speculate and guess around, I actually like to give the real whole what I currently plan on having them own. So I'm going to give you everyone I got here. I have right now about 50% of Kevin Porter. I've got about 30% of Cedi Osman. I've got about 30% of Kevin Love. On DraftKings, I have 25%. And on FanDuel, I will have about 60% Colin Sexton. If Tristan Thompson plays, I will have like 20% of him on FanDuel. Probably not going to touch him much on DraftKings. If he doesn't play, I will play Larry Nance on both sites, but I don't think he's a lock. And then I will dabble with a little Deli Love. We talked about Deli. I'll throw a little Deli Love in there. I could see him. He had 9 assists in the last game. If that creeps into a double-double, you're talking about 10x on his price. So keep that in mind, man. They don't have a whole lot of play creators. For a team with a bunch of point guards that aren't really point guards, they really don't have other than Sexton, and that's not really a point guard. Like, it's just an interesting spot. It's a spot where you could see Dellavedova maybe getting out the upside closer to that 30 minutes rather than that 26 that he's been allocated. I also always like Dellavedova better at home. And he's always been like that. He's always, for some reason, performed a little bit better at home. All right, I'm going to jump back in and see what other questions have popped up. Let's see. Eric John says he was a Nas Reed pivot away from winning it all last night. Too bad, man. I would always pull for you. Let me know when you do. Hit me up on Twitter. I love it. Is Wendell Carter in play? Wendell Carter is the first person I played and currently tied for my highest ownership on FanDuel. No interest on DraftKings. On FanDuel at 4K. I like what it lets you do lineup construction-wise. It's either I'm paying down at center over there because I have a lot of plays I like in other spots. So that's sort of my my creative play. Favorite cheap Boston player? Ugh, knew that question was coming. How could it not come? You know what I mean? We've got to answer it, but it's tough today. You know, I guess the answer is Wanamaker, as gross as it feels to go with the chalky Wanamaker, but he is going to play 30 minutes. He's 3,500. I just think that's what we do. I do like Cantor as an interesting tournament play. But I don't think you want to get heavy exposure or anything like that. You just want to take some shots with him at 3,500. Cantor, I mean, if there was no Tatum tonight, I was going to be very heavy because I think that you could look at him as a guy who could run some offense for you, do some things. I thought he was interesting. Say Javonte Green could get the minutes, Carson Edwards could. That's what makes it less interesting with Wanamaker than it originally seemed like it might be. So I'm sort of coming off a little of my Wanamaker because I think it could be some of these other guys too. Cleveland is so bad against the position, though. I mean, it could be all three of them. Langford's going to see minutes. They've got a lot of guys who are going to see minutes. Carson Edwards is you want to take a dart on a guy who might win you a tournament? Again, only if there's like 100,000 people in it. Carson Edwards is this guy, though. He's 3.1. He's going to win somebody a tournament before the year's over, and I made that promise at the beginning of the year. So this is pretty much one of his last chances with all the guys out. So let's take a shot with him. Who knows? I think it's actually not too bad. Wow, firing it up in chat. A lot of information going on. K9 Bronco stack in Portland, Washington. I love it. I like it better on FanDuel. Unfortunately, more popular, but not popular enough. I love going with that Beal Lillard low-owns combo. I mean, you could just, if that works out your way, you're crushing it. Cody Mayfield saying, "What about RotoQL?" I'm curious, Cody. You're trying to learn how to use it. It's pretty straightforward to use the RotoQL app. Cody, one of these times after lock, hit me up in Twitter. We'll explain it for you, or you can ask the QL TV guys. But really, you can ask me, and I'll help you out on Twitter. I don't have time to do it right now through the show because I feel like it might be not the best waste of time. Not the best use of time. Excuse me. Sorry about that, Cody. Would I play Brandon Knight with Svi? I think you can. I probably would be more interested in doing that if I had interest in more of the Thunder, which I'm sort of struggling with a little bit tonight. But I don't think there's a reason to really go there. You're fine to do it. It's just not exciting to me. I might even end up with it in a lineup or two just because they may just fit. But I don't know. Not for me. Cody had it last year. Cody's pretty straightforward. If you fiddle around with it for a few minutes, you're a smart guy. Like, I know you're going to figure this one out, but if not, I'm happy to answer after. We got another question from Buster Jackson. Brandon Knight, pairing him with Napier on FanDuel. I don't like Brandon Knight on FanDuel at all. I do like him on DraftKings. I think there's no reason to go to him on FanDuel. You've got other players in his price range with 60, 70 fantasy point ceilings. I'm not going to play a guy with a 40 fantasy point ceiling for basically a similar price. Let's see. Glad you mentioned him. I might be a little heavy on Delhi on DK. I'm not going crazy with Delhi, but you want some exposure there. Sure you do. You definitely do. Guys, make sure to get the like, thumbs up. We really want to keep the show running a few more minutes, and we're already running late. So if you like the show, give us the like, the thumbs up, and we'll stay on here a little longer. We can finish answering these questions. We can talk a little bit more. In the meantime, I'm going to throw out a couple other things from, just BetQL. Again, go to betql.co. You're going to enter the code BobbyFi for 30% off the first month. 12-4 on 4-star spreads over the last 14 days. Been crushing with the high spreads, the 4 and the 5 stars. Just get in there and you can blindly do what they tell you to do. Or if you don't agree with it, don't do it. But I think you're not going to lose any money just trusting BetQL. They're very sharp. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here pretty soon. So make sure to like and make sure you get some comments in there so I can keep answering questions. It'll allow us to run the show a little longer, but you got to like and subscribe first. All right, here we go. Who is Carson Edwards? Check out some video. Look him up on YouTube. This guy can shoot it with the best of them. He can go out there and knock down 10 threes in a game. Now, he doesn't get those minutes. He's not that chance in the NBA yet. But he's a rookie who's going to have some moments. I'll tell you who he's like. He's like a newer Eddie House. So he's like that. Remember if we ever used to think Eddie House would get minutes? You never knew. He might put up 50 real-life points, which he did. He's that kind of a guy. K9 Bronco loves the RotoQL app. It says it's player-friendly. Awesome. Really, really happy to hear that. Favorite low-dollar 3-entry or single entry for who would I be looking for? I'm sorry, Abrasive. I don't understand the question. I don't understand what the question is. Can you please repeat that one? Thoughts on Hassan Whiteside? I don't have any interest in Hassan Whiteside tonight. If that kills me, so be it. A fairly reasonably owned Hassan Whiteside with Lillard coming back in a game that he could get run off the court, which I've seen happen to him a million times in these fast-paced games, doesn't sound good to me. So I'm not into it. I think he should smash. Don't get me wrong. But I think he could, I just am not going there. There's just plenty of other plays in the slate for me. Eric Johnson, he's not, so Carson Edwards, he's not exactly a backup. He's really more of like a combo guard. Eddie House. If you guys know Eddie House, you know he's never been called a point guard, but he is basically like a point guard. So it's sort of a combo guard is what you would call him. He's not even the backup straight away necessarily. He's going to come in and play some shooting guard for you. They'll move Smart to the 3 at times. They'll move Tatum to the 4. That's what's going to happen. Abrasive, again, please get that question back in because I don't understand what that means. Favorite low-dollar 3-entry or single-entry DK contest? Would you look for the most field? Oh, you're asking for the actual contest. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to think of players. For single and 3-entry, the $20, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. The $20 one I always like, the buzzer beater, that's what it's called. For single entry, I always play the $100 and the $40. I don't know. It depends on what your state, what you're willing to pay. I'm going to play bigger because I play bigger, but I don't usually go above 250 on the single entries or 222. I just feel like I'm better used for bigger tournaments because if you can win them consistently, obviously it's not the most EV thing to do to play more just long shot tournaments. But if that's what your style is and that's what you're good at, that's what you should stick to, and that's what I'm good at, so that's what I stick to. But I do pretty well in the single entry because I tend to go a little bit more off the board than most people. I'll have 2 weeks in a row of losing single entries, and then I'll win a couple tournaments one day. So that's sort of how I run in single entries. But overall, I think I've got pretty good records. Anyway, guys, really appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to get out of here soon. I felt like it was nicer today. We had more interaction going on. Really like when the chat gets involved with each other, with us, with anything. Any questions or thoughts about BetQL, RotoQL, I will try to get back to you if you hit me up sometime after lock one of these days. And again, the people over there, you can even go to the help over there. It's pretty straightforward stuff, and it's a really, really great site. BetQL has been crushing it. RotoQL app has been crushing it as well. I want to point out real quickly, I guess I didn't do this yet, that there is I always look for the differences between other projection sites and who we have a little bit higher at RotoQL over here. We are very high on Naz Reid on BetQL. I'm sorry, on RotoQL. And we're very high on Denzel Valentine. And we're high on Javonte Green and Duncan Robinson. The guys who I sort of was a little bit had on the outs. And I need to do a tiny bit more research because we're giving them a little bit more minutes than I would have projected here. So, but I do feel good about this Love and Napier thing, though. I mean, how about that? Napier as the 5th best point per dollar play on the slate, and we can get him at 0 ownership over here. And let's go. Let's go with Shabazz Napier. I'm into it. Anyway, guys, you guys are great. Thanks so much. Really appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to leave the chat open for just a minute. But, we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards tonight. And remember, go to betql.co, enter BobbyFi for 33% off, or 30% off. I'll give you that extra 3% off your first month. I'm sure they'll be okay with it if I said it once. It's actually only 30% off. But hit me up if you do sign up. Show me you signed up, and I will send you the 3% for the first month because I didn't mean to make that promise. Anyway, guys, good luck. We love you. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.